And I hope these reasons apply to us today, to our students, to those who come to learn here. 2 reasons. The reason is, the first reason is a dream he's seen. He's seen in his dream the Prophet ﷺ come in, thanking him in some way for deterring from people who are degrading him or doing something bad to him. And when he interpreted this dream to the scholars, they say, you're going to defend the Prophet. He's seen himself defending the Prophet in his dream. They told him, you're going to defend the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam by pushing away any lies away from him. You know, a lot of people are going to lie about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you're going to do that. It's stuck in his mind. How? Still, not yet. The second one is another dream like that, is that he was walking in his dream, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was there, and a lot of people around him. And the one walking in his footsteps is Bukhari. Everyone else is coming on the left, on the right, and all over. What is the interpretation of that dream? You're going to be the one who defend him and walk exactly in his footsteps. Exactly. 2 dreams. Look at these dreams. How many of you seen the Prophet ﷺ? We didn't see him because we don't think about him. We don't want to defend his honor. We don't spend our time reciting hadith, 50, 60, 100,000 hadith, memorized. Not read. I say read. Read a couple hadith a day. Read a couple verses a day. Maybe you have a dream about him. Why did he dream so much about the Prophet ﷺ? Why? Because he slept with the Prophet ﷺ reading his books. He woke up with the Prophet ﷺ reading his books. All this was Al-Bukhari rahimahullah. So he said, I gotta do something about defending the honor of the Prophet ﷺ. So he's sitting, the second reason. This is A and B for the one reason. First reason is a dream. 2 dreams, A and B. The second reason is Ishaq ibn Rahawayh, his teacher. And this is the one I want to apply. When I say we want from amongst us Anur al-Din, I hope it clicks in someone's mind. When I say we want amongst us a Salah al-Din, I hope it clicks in someone's mind. When I say we want someone in the knowledge of Al-Bukhari, I hope it clicks in someone's mind. This is exactly what Ishaq ibn Rahawayh said. He said, Ishaq ibn Rahawayh said, what do you guys think? Some one of you should collect the pure authentic hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ishaq ibn Rahawayh had masses of students. Masses! It clicked in one guy's mind and he couldn't let it go. And as soon as he remembered the dream with what Ishaq ibn Rahawayh said, he started writing Sahih al-Bukhari. How long did it take him to write a Sahih al-Musnad of the authentic saying of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What would you say? How would you say? All his life? A day? 2 days? 16 years. That book that you got today? 16 years. He said, I collected this book I had in my mind when I wrote it, 700,000 hadith memorized. You know what 700,000 hadith means? You know what 700,000 hadith with the chain mean? Yani you guys come here, a lot of you come here every day. Wallahi, I'm shy. Sometimes I don't know some of your names. Wallahi. You know what it means to have 700,000 hadith? Each hadith has about 6-7 men prior to it. Minimum 6-7 men. He got to memorize these names. And these names are so hard to memorize. Wallahi. I dare someone to stay in some hadith. I give him a month. Some hadith, I give him a month. And I dare him to memorize it with its chain. I dare him. You know, 700,000 hadith. I pulled out of it this Sahih al-Bukhari. And he said, you know what? I could have pulled out more authentic, but I want it to be summarized. I wanted it to be summarized. 700,000 hadith. He collects this pure authentic book. This is the second book according to the great vast majority of the ummah. This is the second book after the Quran in its authenticity. Some scholars of Morocco dispute and say Sahih Muslim is above Sahih al-Bukhari, but there are only a few. The great vast majority of the ummah believe Sahih al-Bukhari comes second in hand of the authenticity of the, you know, out of all these centuries after Bukhari, only scholars were able to talk about 1 or 2. Talk, and probably the right hood is with al-Bukhari. Talk, just 2 hadith that may have some problem. May. And probably the truth is with al-Bukhari. He wrote this book. How many hadith are in this book? Anyone want to give me a rough?
7,000.
7,000, how much? You're close.
Oh, exact number?
I need exact number. We don't deal here with rough figures.
7,040.
No. 7,500, and I'm glad you guys are writing this so you can memorize it, because this you don't see in English books. Most of you only speak English, and I'm glad you guys are writing this so you can memorize it. 7,563 hadith. 700 5,063 hadith is in Bukhari. You know what he said about those? He said that every time he put a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, he go and take a bath and pray 2 rak'ah salat al-istikhara and then make a decision whether to put it in or not. Every hadith. Did he take 7,563 showers just for Sahih al-Bukhari? 7,563 for istikhara? I say he probably took triple that number for Sahih Bukhari. Why? Because when he originally wrote it, he wrote it. But he used to wake up, as you're going to see in a minute, and say, let me change this hadith to this hadith. This is more authentic than this one. And he make istikhara again. And we probably make istikhara maybe once or twice. Most of the brothers never make it except when they want to get married. That's all. And that's it. And that's the only time brothers get married. Brother, how do you do istikhara? Oh, are you going to get married? That's what I tell him. You're going to get married? Of course he's going to get married as soon as he's going to do istikhara. This man did it 7,563 times. Sahih al-Bukhari, without the numbers repeated in it, is 2,550 hadith. Without the repetition. You know the hadith may be repeated with a sentence, in a different format than another, or a word taken out from the other. So without the repetition in Sahih al-Bukhari, there's 2,550 hadith. Imagine that. This, of course, is one of his 100 famous books that he wrote. This is one out of 100. The most popular book, the book we know about him. He wrote this book, he says, when I was a young boy, teenager, I used to sit next to the Prophet ﷺ's grave and sit and write Tarikh al-Kabir and then Sahih al-Bukhari. And he goes, my memory goes back to the days where I went to one sheikh one time and I sat there. And he's over there sitting and probably the feather he's holding is taller than him. He was a little young boy there. He said, and everyone looked at me and they smiled. This young boy coming in our halaqah and sitting. That's how you raise your kids. This is how you raise your kids. This is how we were supposed to raise. If your parents made a mistake in raising you, this is how you gotta get it. You don't let them. Our legends are not those NBA. Our legends are not the presidents and leaders of the. Our youth today. What do you want to be? I want to be the president of this country. That's filth. That's disgusting. That's not what you should be. Your leadership is like these heroes that we're talking about. You gotta be raising your kids. Raising your kids. If your parents made a mistake, catch up on yourself. If you can't catch up on yourself, learn this lesson for your children. He said, when I was a young boy, and the sheikh wanted to ask him, he said to encourage him. We have some, we had a brother, what's his name? That young boy, he wrote, he took the tapes that we have over here, and he's writing them word by word. What's his name? Matt, how old is he? 10. He's writing them word for word. If they stay like this, youth and kids like this, they're going to have a future, like al-Bukhari. Yeah? He's writing a word. He's writing Salah ad-Din Ayyubi's life word for word from our tapes. What do you think? This is good. It's going to stick in mind. But youth who only know the singers and the actors, that's the only thing they're going to be on, and they're going to be failures. They're not going to be able to do that. Allah is going to destroy them in this life because of that kind of thinking, and in the life after. He said, the sheikh asked me, what are you writing? How many did you write? The sheikhs back then used to say hadith by chain, and people sit and write. And he said, 2. The young boy. Everyone started laughing at him. 2, he's supposed to say, اثنين. He said, اثنتين. He said, he meant 2 hadith. And he said, I meant 2 hadith. But he said 2. I mean, it's close. But the way he said it, in the circumstance, and how young he was, everyone started laughing. The sheikh said, no. Don't laugh at him. There's going to be a day when this kid laughs at you guys. And indeed, it wasn't but a few months, not few days, months, count by months, when this man made fun of them. See how precise he was? It was precise to the point, Sahih al-Bukhari took from him 16 years. You know what 16 years of doing? 16 years of writing it? No, 16 years to the point one of his students said, I slept in his house one time. He wakes up at night, every night, 18 times. He said, a minimum 18 times. He wakes up, he turns on the light, kerosene or wherever they had then. He writes something or scribbles out something, puts his head back to sleep. When he's praying at night, he probably sleeps a few hours at the end of the night to get some rest. He's praying all night long. This is a abid. These are worshippers. These are not just people who focus on knowledge. These are worshippers who cried and begged and made dua for the sake of Allah. So what did he do? He gets up, corrects this mistake, fixes this one, makes a note, replaces hadith by. That's why Sahih al-Bukhari, Wallah al-Azim, just not the hadith in it, just the titles he put for the hadith, that's a knowledge in itself. You see some of those who wrote, Ibn Hajar, who wrote about Sahih Bukhari, he wrote about a 9 volume, if I'm not mistaken, wallahi, this book, every time I go back to research an issue in this book, wallah, I don't think a single time. Every time I go, I want a certain thing, certain issue, about some fiqh issue. Wallahi, I can't get enough. I go read it, and the time takes me and I'm reading something else. And sometimes he goes on for pages, talking about a hadith, about bab so-and-so. Bab, why Bukhari called it bab so-and-so. And he pulls you 2, 3 more pages on just why Bukhari called it this. Bab, that you don't call the dead person a martyr. That you don't call a dead person a martyr. And he sits and talks about it and why you shouldn't call him a martyr. This is before he gets to the hadith under it. This is just before he gets to the hadith. That shows you. He get up, one of his colleagues said, I traveled with him on a journey. We went several nights. Every night I counted, he gets up at night 15 to 25 times, gets up, no light, writes, because they're on a journey, writes something, scribble something, and goes back to sleep, gets up at night. 15 to 25 times a night on average. Today, I say, our youth get up 15 to 25, not more, but it's because they're worried about a loved one that they lost, a girl they love, or a car they want, or a mansion they want, or an interview that they lost. Yeah, but look at the goals, different goals. He was sincere for Allah, he protected the hadith, Allah protected him. He used to say, I never took a hadith from any scholar, except I asked where he's from, and how, with the date of his birth, and that every single man in the chains of my hadith, I know the history of every single man in that chain. He knows when he was born, who is scholars, by heart, by his mind. This is not something, too hard to do. When we fear Allah, we can have it. Contemporary scholars today know this, just like they know their parents. Sheikh Muqbil, rahimahullah, if you guys know him, he's a contemporary sheikh in Yemen. He just died recently, about two years ago. When he came to California to get treatment because he had cancer, I went and stayed with him approximately a week in his apartment. He was the only big scholar I didn't meet. So I said it's an opportunity to go meet him. He came to America, subhanallah, the only one I didn't meet. We have to go. I went and met him. And he sits there, and we're sitting. He's in agony. He's cancer. The doctors say you got a few months to die, and we got to give you a transplant. And the government was after him. You can't stay in this country. And the whole world is against it. And he sits there with a smiling face. Muhammad ibn Sirin, who is he? When did he die? And he sits and asks you about the chains of the hadith, the names. He pulls them out. When was he born? When did he die? Tell me a little bit about his life. Every single man. And then one of his students, I said, he's always like this? He said he's always like this. He said he knows this hadith, the men of the hadith, more than he knows his own tribe. He has a big tribe in Yemen, Wadi', in Yemen. What town is he from? Yeah, but what town is he from? Sa'da. He's from Sa'da. He said he has a big tribe. He said, wallahi, he knows the tribe. He knows the men in the hadith more than he knows his tribe, his own tribe, his close relatives, and his own tribe. Yeah, this is a contemporary scholar. You know how he died? He used to pass in and out. They took him to another country, and then he made hajj, and he used to pass back in and out. He died. Every time he wakes up, did I pray? And he passes. This name, give me this name. When was he born? When he died? Tell me something about his life. Is he good, reputable, or not? This is how he died. This was on his deathbed. He couldn't come on the judgment day saying, when I asked him one time, I can't remember what I discussed with him, and I told him, why you always do that? He said, this makes me feel so good when I know about these men and their life. It makes me feel so good. No matter what problem I have, my mind escapes with this. That's why I always do that. And it's true. He had a problem or something, he sit and discuss the ilm and knowledge of the people. This was Imam Bukhari. And this second one I was talking about is called Sheikh Muqbil, who just recently died, rahmatullah alayh. Imam al-Bukhari, rahmatullah alayh, continued in his legacy to be those men around him. He became their scholar. The ones who taught him later became his students. He used to enter a town, one of the narrators said, where he was a student in. He said it's a small town. He said, I counted just the people on horses. It was 4,000 people on horses. Other than the ones on camels and other than the ones walking. 4,000 people. He said 4,000 people in a small town. He went one time to Iraq. Iraq, they said, we're going to see this guy. Is he a whole bunch of lies? He memorizes 70,000 hadith. We're going to find if he's a liar or not. So when they went, they said, here's 100 hadith. They took the chains of the hadith and they flipped them around. Like Ahmad narrated from Yusuf, Yusuf narrated from Abdul Latif. Abdul Latif narrated from Atiq. He took that chain and replaced it with a hadith from another chain. 4 other guys. And they switched them around. 10 hadith. And 10 hadith everyone got. And everyone, there was 10 people among the masses of people sitting there. So when he came in and he sat, they said, everyone after he's done lecturing us, you ask him about this hadith. So the first one got up, he mentioned 10 hadith. He said, I don't know it. Next one, I don't know it. Next one, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know it every time. Then he said, you done? I said, I'm done. Said, good. Any more questions? The second one said, I got. He pulled out the next 10 hadith. You know these hadith? I said, I don't know it. I don't know it. I don't know it. 10 times, I don't know it. The third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one, the seventh, till the 10th one, till they were done with the 100. Then he said, are you all done? They said, yes. He said, let's start back with you. You say the hadith like this. And he repeated the hadith back to them exactly as it was. He put the right chain on the right hadith and he said it back. He said, we give up. We give up. When he went to another country, Nisabur, and they wanted to do the same thing with him. What they did with him was they switched the hadith, because sometimes scholars memorize the hadith by the towns they're in. They switched the hadith that are from the men of Iraq to the men, scholars, that are in Sham. They switched them around. The ones from Sham, they put it on a different hadith from Iraq. And the ones from Yemen, they switched it around with the ones from the Arabian Peninsula. And he sat there. And they began to recite hadith. And after they were done, he said, you're done? They said, we're done. He said, okay, this is the appropriate way of those hadith. You have said I'm wrong. Meaning his memory was better than they ever could imagine. They gave up to him. He became a popular figure. Became a man where at times he would enter the town in its entirety would go to greet him. And on other hand, sometimes no one would greet him. Because he had enemies. When you grow that popular, you got people who are jealous, people who hate you because you're on the right path, and you also got on the right other side some pious people. He used to always say, there's nothing, one of his famous quotes, there's nothing on this planet that's not in the Quran and the Sunnah. He memorized so much hadith, he knew that every detail of your life is in the Quran and in the Sunnah. You know, one of his famous quotes is Allah, in a firm way, he said, Allah is not going to punish me for backbiting or talking about people. And you say, okay, this is popular for the scholar. But what's the scholar, if you know the detail of his knowledge, what is it called? What is it called? Jarh and Ta'deel. Jarh and Ta'deel. Meaning, you say this guy is righteous and this guy is not righteous. This guy you can accept his hadith, this guy you can't. This guy was a Shia, you can't accept his hadith. This guy was a Mubtada, you can't accept his hadith. This guy was a pious person, you can accept it. This one was a guy who was mentally insane, you can't accept his hadith. That's his job, that's a Jarh wa Ta'deel. He says, Allah in a firm way is not inshallah gonna... How could you say that, Bukhari, when you got masses of books where you talk about people? And the scholars describe what he said. And this is a good thing to those who love to refute. You know, a giant like this, you know, this shuts them up. Actually, this puts a shoe in their mouth. Those people who want to refute, all they want to do is refute. Wallahi, guys, who can't say Wallah, they can't say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, right? Brother, we're going to refute this guy. He's Khawarij, he's Hizbi. They can't pronounce the word, he's Hizbi. Where would you get this from? They want to refute. The 2 days into Islam, and they jump into Islam, they want to refute. Learn from Bukhari, the one whose job it was to refute. You know what they said by his meaning of his word? He said, you know, these, by the way, these Hizbi and all this junk and Khawarij and Murja and all these guys, they became so big, they refuted themselves. You can't, this guy refutes this guy, and within themselves. And that's all they worry about. Knowledge, no knowledge. Ignorance. They can't say, Wallah. I met people. Wallahi, they can't say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa anna Muhammad Rasulullah in the appropriate pronunciation. But he's a Hizbi. He's a Khawarij. What's Khawarij, brother? You know, these guys are ignorant. These guys should be shunned. These guys are not from the path of the Sahaba radiallahu anh. Learn from the path of the Sahaba. This man right here, Sahih al-Bukhari, the one who wrote Sahih al-Bukhari. You know what he said when he said, I will not backbite anyone? Allah will not charge me for backbiting anyone. They said that he means, if you look into his book, when he talked about a liar, a deviant liar, you know what he said about him sometimes? He's questioned. His credibility is questioned. When he says his credibility, he doesn't want to say a word about him so he can be asked by Allah. But he wants to hint the ummah, watch out from this guy. And he wants to do it in the right way. Did he say, oh Allah, we caught a tape on this guy, and he said in the 500 tapes we pulled out a tape where he said a weak hadith. You know, this is their job. We pulled out. This guy said, no, but be worried about learning. Refuting, leave that for the scholars. It's not your business. He said, is a liar. The scholar said the meaning of his word is he's a liar, a deviant, someone who's a deviant. A liar, he says, his question, his credibility. He puts there, when he knows that, his credibility is questioned. You see how unique that is? You see how fearful of Allah is? To the point he's sure that he can stand before Allah. You know, one time, and other things that happened to him, scholars like this are always tested by bums and stupid people that want to shoot down these scholars. One time he entered a town, no one came up to him. And small group gathered around him. Then someone who was jealous of him told him, this guy doesn't even know how to pray. So Bukhari said, he says, I don't know how to pray. They told him. He said, yes. He said, Wallahi, if he comes here right now, I give him 10,000 hadith on prayer alone. 10,000 hadith on prayer alone. You know, if we memorize one hadith on prayer alone, that's good. He said, let him come here, I give him 10,000 hadith on prayer. And another time he went in a town, no one listened to him. He walked away. He left. You don't want to listen to me. He left away, and one guy came right after him. He said, you're the guy that they say you have 70,000 hadith? He said, yeah, 70,000 with their chains, and with the knowledge of who those people in the chain are. This was Al-Bukhari, rahmatullah alayh. His wara' in this life, and his fear of harming people was to the point, one time he went, you know, this guy wasn't a man who just took a pad and an ink and just wrote. One time they went, him and his colleagues, and they practiced sharpshooting. Siham, nastabah. They went to, you know, to start sharpshooting. And Al-Bukhari hit his aim, and it went through his aim to a log behind his aim, and it cracked the log in half, and that log was holding up like a porch in front of the front yard of some house over there. That porch tilted a little bit because that log broke. And it was a problem for Bukhari. You know, if you tell me that, I say, let's book. Let's get out of here. I don't know if a lot of you would do that. I say, let's get out of here before the police come and the insurance and you got a problem with that. But Al-Bukhari, it was a problem. He said, stop here. And his face turned color and he's worrisome. We got to go talk to the owner. They went to the owner. They said, Al-Bukhari was shooting, and he sent some of his students, and he said, Al-Bukhari was shooting, and we want to pay you. How much is it? And the man says, Al-Bukhari did that? He said, yes. He said, tell him the land and the house, and everyone in the house are under his command, whatever he wants to do, in respect to Al-Bukhari. Yeah, he was also known to be a businessman. But you know who taught him this? By the way, who taught him this? His father. His father, I tell you, when you have a pious father, a knowledgeable father, he's going to carry this legacy on to the son. You're going to see it by watching. You're going to inherit it in your blood like your father had it. Usually, with exceptions. His father, on his deathbed, Ismail, who was a multi-millionaire of his time, a rich man, on his deathbed, he's laying down, he said, Wallahi al-Azim. Wallahi al-Azim, there's not a single dirham or a portion of a dirham I got in my wealth that's from haram. Could you say that? Listen to this, especially those who asked me about interest in that the other day. Listen to this, listen to the other half. He said, Wallahi, I have not a dirham or a portion of dirham that there's doubt in it. Meaning if there was doubt in it, I left it. If it's haram, I left it. Look up. You say, you know, someone's going to give you a whole bunch of wealth, or you're going to buy a property, and in that property's interest, and that is an investment, or someone's giving you $1 million, and you say, you know what, man, if I don't take that, how am I going to live? It's the other way you look at it. That's the stupid way. That's the retarded way of thinking. You got to think of yourself as retarded when you think like that. The other way of thinking, no. If I don't take that, it's better for me. If I take that, I'm going to spend it on my kid in the future. If I take that, my son's going to come out retarded in the future. If I take that, I'm going to spend it on my mother's health. I'm going to spend it on my father's health. I'm not going to have a pious man like Al-Bukhari. He gets a son like Al-Bukhari. Ismail in his grave, Allah's raising his position. Every time we say rahmatullah on his son. Why? Because he's the one who made his son what he is. He's the one who inherited to his son what he is. He's raising his position. Why? Because of things like this. He left something for the sake of Allah, Allah replaced him. Think like that as a Muslim. Don't think like the other people. And Al-Bukhari rahmatullah alayh was a businessman. Don't think he was just a man into books. These guys were agents of governments who took monthly salary and sat at home and wrote books. No. These weren't people who benefited from their work. They didn't have printing companies, okay, make a release, the first release of Sahih Bukhari, and charge $500 for everyone, and copyright it. Scholars copyright it. No, you can't publish it again. And if you find it on the internet, they close your site if you put it on there. That wasn't how Bukhari was. He was a businessman. He was a businessman that everyone loved to deal with him. He was a businessman to the point that one time he had a caravan his son brought in for him. And the people came in, the businessman came in, and they said, the Bukhari, we give you 5,000 profit on that. He said, 5,000? Okay, go back home, we'll see. To a normal person, you didn't give him an answer. The next morning, someone comes in and says, Bukhari, we give you 10,000 profit. He says, no, I already sold it yesterday. To a normal person, you're not going to be held against that. Had he said, yeah, I accept, he didn't say that. But fear of Allah, just something vague, he said, take it, and take it for 5,000, because I said, just come back in the morning. It may be a hint that they felt that it was theirs and it belonged to them. He let down 5,000 profit. But what did Allah do? Look what Allah did to him. We say Bukhari in this setting, how many times we said Bukhari rahmatullah alayh? He's in his grave now, and Allah's raising his position. Because of what? Things like this. You think narrowly. As a Muslim, we don't think, wattaqullah. Fear Allah, Allah gonna replace something better than that small little thing. $10,000 someone give you in haram. An investment that you're gonna invest in haram. 5-10 years and something gonna happen to it and Allah destroy it. Like the brother, alhamdulillah, brother Adil. Adil said he's not gonna buy a house. He was planning on buying a house in a certain way, and he found out things, and he said, that's it, I'm not gonna buy it. Yeah, that's how a Muslim thinks. It's investment. It's an investment too. He thinks, if I buy this house, I'm gonna get $500 a month pure profit into my pocket every single month. I don't sit and do nothing. This is it, right? That's how landlords think. And so you think like that. But then you say, if you're a Muslim, no, Allah gonna give me something better. Wallahi al-azim, Allah's gonna give you better. That's what the Quran says. That's what the Prophet ﷺ says. So Al-Bukhari continues in his legacy. The scholars talk so much about him. I don't even have time to talk about what they said about him. I'll tell you, Ibn Khuzaymah, who is he? Who knows? He's a muhaddith. He has sunan. He has a collection just like Al-Bukhari. Of course, not as authentic as it, but he has a collection like Al-Bukhari. He says there's no one under the sky who the sky sheds over him who's more knowledgeable in hadith than this man. Muslim, rahimahullah, Muslim, the second book, he said, every time he walk in on Al-Bukhari, let me kiss your hands and your feet. Muslim tells that. Look how the scholars would say. One time, this is a unique story. One time a scholar, and Bukhari was sitting with a scholar that you're going to know the story about, and the scholar talked about Bukhari. He kicked Bukhari out of his class, out of his setting. Because, are you going to see why in a minute? So, Muslim packed his bags and went. The Shaykh knew who Muslim is going to be, and he's a man who's like Al-Bukhari almost. He said, come back. Muslim said, I don't want you or your hadith. You don't humiliate my Shaykh like that. You know how they respected each other? They had honor for each other. They had respect for their scholars. They had honor for their scholars. For someone who teaches you hadith. He said, I don't want you. Although he could have took a collection of him and went. He said, I don't want you or your hadith. As soon as he talked about Al-Bukhari, packed his belongings and left to teach him a lesson. So that's what Muslim said. And there's a saying, I sum it up, wallahi, there's so much saying, I can't even go through them, about what the scholar said about Al-Bukhari, the muhaddithin. Someone who said that his knowledge weighs the knowledge of all the scholars of his time. He's the collection of all the knowledge of his time is in Al-Bukhari. Not in his time, and of all prior times. Scholars in Mecca and Medina said, the most knowledgeable amongst us is Al-Bukhari. But Ibn Ja'far said a unique quote, and just take this quote, and it's an amazing quote. Ibn Ja'far said, I think his first name is Yahya ibn Ja'far. He said, if I was able to take from my life, in days from my life, or moments from my life, and give it to Bukhari, wallahi I would do that. Why? Because when he died, a great amount of knowledge died. When I died, it's only one man, although he was a scholar himself, Ibn Ja'far. He's talking about who? Al-Bukhari. If he died, I wish I can give him from my life so he can live more. This was how they treated each other. This is how the scholars look up to Al-Bukhari. How generous he was. His income was reported to be approximately 500 dinar a month. His monthly gross was 500. How much you get from that, saved from that Al-Bukhari? Nothing. When they told him, Bukhari, save a little bit of that. He was wealthy. I mean, 500 is pretty good. Not a multi-millionaire, but pretty good. A month. And he spent it all. They said, save from it. He says, no, what's Allah says for me is better than that which I have in this life. Where did the money go? You know, it's reported that he had a land. He was a landlord. So, inshallah, we're gonna. he had a land. He used to rent out for 700 dinar a month. A land, one of his lands. And the owner of the land, what's khiyar in English? Cucumber. Not cucumber, al-qitha. Shil qitha. Qitha, cucumber, it's a special kind of cucumber. It's known in the Arabic countries. It's the one with like little thrones, almost like little thrones coming out of it, like a cucumber. Bukhari loved that. He loved that very much. So the guy, he rented out his land to, every time the cucumbers came out, those qitha came out, he would take and send to al-Bukhari a little bit, one or two it said. And when watermelons came out, he'd take a little bit from that and send one or two, I mean, not a whole big, and send it from where he's at to al-Bukhari. Al-Bukhari, just for that, would take 100 dinar off of the yearly salary. 100 dinar, just for 2 or 3, and he's living right there. You can take a couple hundred off your rent. Okay, this is how generous he was. He was generous to the point, next to him, when he was teaching, was a bag of gold all the time. And who he gave? Every time he knew someone was needy of his students, or he looked needy, or he'd take 20 to 30 dinar out, and give it to him. One of the scholars said, it's known that no one around him would know unless you carefully watch him. Always that bag next to him. 20 to 30 dinar is the minimum he gives out to his students. Don't look at me, I'm more broke than all of you, okay? I mean, I need more than you. So it was 20 to 30 dinar that he gave each student. How much you have left? Nothing. But he has a legacy. He could be a millionaire. And you know, like the older people say, I want to give my sons a couple millions. And your sons come out and they take a couple millions. You save up a couple millions for them. And they die with their money. Look at Bukhari. He's living approximately 1200 years and his name lives. And there isn't a single probably Muslim who doesn't say Rahmatullah alayh. Nearly not a single kind of Muslim that doesn't say that. Bukhari, as any scholar, went through trials and tribulations in his life. Any scholar has to go. You got a da'iyah with no problems, he's not a true da'iyah. And they're usually like these kind of problems. What happened? He went to Samarkand. I'm not sure if it's Samarkand or Nisabur. One of those two towns, he went there, and there was Al-Zuhali, a scholar named Al-Zuhali. Anyone here Al-Zuhali? Anyone here Al-Zuhali? This is from Allah's honor to Al-Bukhari. Look at that. You got people who, they can ban you from Jum'ah. They can ban you from halaqat. They can ban you from giving speeches. They can bring someone else. They die before, they die. Their name dies before they die. And if they get a longer term, they die with their name. And the other people live a legacy on. Yet they can ban him. Look what happened to this man. Al-Zuhali, he goes in, Al-Bukhari rahmatullah alayh, he goes in and to a town, Samarkand or Nisabur, and he sits there and sits and preaches people. Al-Zuhali tells his people, his students, go there, the best man on this earth is here. Go listen to him. They all go listen to him. When you get listen to Al-Bukhari, you're addicted. They left Al-Zuhali. Al-Zuhali, what happened? Jealousy. A scholar. That's why they tell you that one of the rules in Jarh and Ta'dil, to refute a scholar can't refute a scholar of his, level of his time. Sometimes, that's one of the rules of Jarh and Ta'dil. Why? Because there's some jealousy there. So Zuhali got jealous of Al-Bukhari. And he wanted to now begin to instigate rumors against him. And back then the biggest fitna was the fitna of the Quran being created. The Quran, some scholars some scholars were saying that the Quran is created, and other scholars were saying, no, the Quran is not created. Of course, as you know, the opinion of the Muslim, in order to be a Muslim, is that the Quran is the word of Allah. The Quran is the word of Allah. So he began to instigate that Al-Bukhari is a deviant. He says that the Quran is the creation of Allah, which is a big deviance. If it's true, that's a big deviance. So he went and spread that. So someone came in the halaqah, he was sitting in Nisabur or Samarkand, and he's sitting there in the halaqah, and the people come in, and one man comes in and says, Bukhari, is the Quran created or the word of Allah? He ignores him. Second time, third time, Fourth time. Sometimes you don't want to answer a question that causes fitna. So he kept ignoring him. When that man was persistent, he said, the Quran is the word of Allah. And the voice, when we recite, the voice is a creation. Is your voice a creation? Your vocal cords, your throat, all that is a creation. And asking and testing people like this is a bid'ah. Oh, they took this and they began to fly. Oh, this guy says it's a creation. Did he say the Quran is? He said the voice is a creation. Yes, but they took it to tamper and they took away all his students. And look what he said, his last quote, for those who like to refute. Testing people like this is a bid'ah. Testing people. One time I get brother, he said, brother, he's never been to my halaqah ever. He come one time and he says, what do you think about speaking against rulers in public? That stupid idiot, he's American. He's African American. I don't want to put him down because of his color, but I want to tell you his background. He's African American. He's living in America. What rule are you talking about? What rule are you? President Bush? You talk about people talking about bad about President Bush? If you're talking about overseas, we're not overseas over here. But these guys this is a Down syndrome they have within them. They're all alike. All these people are alike. Wherever you go. You come in, you go to Medina, they got the same thing. Down syndrome, the people who are retarded in Down syndrome, they all look alike. I don't know if you noticed that. You find the Chinese and American with Down syndrome, they both look alike. And the same with these people. You go, what do you think about the Imam? Brother, we're not talking about the Imam, we're talking about Tahara. What do you think about speaking public about it? Questioning people like this is a bid'ah. What do you got? If you have someone, you heard something about him, that's a different story. But to go questioning and quizzing people like this is a bid'ah. Because you know why they do this? Why people like to refute? Because they're ignorant. That's exactly what Sheikh Muqbil told me. He told me, yes, we refute. He told me this personally when I was in his house. He said, yeah, we refute. And I say this today because this Imam is like those people who like to refute today. I mean, his job is jarh and ta'deel. But I wish the people today learn the method of jarh and ta'deel from Al-Bukhari. So he said, the man came to him and I asked Sheikh Muqbil, I said, I kept asking him about certain people. What do you think about this and that? So why you keep asking me about these people? He said, stick with learning and teaching your people knowledge, wallahi. And don't worry about the rest. If once in a while there's a danger that comes, you got to speak about it. I said, but look at you. You got this tape and this tape. And I named it. He said, those tapes? We got over 30, 40 halaqah a day in my camp. He has a camp in Yemen. He has about 3,000, 4,000 students. He got 30, 40 halaqah a day. Out of the whole month, he has one tape that comes out refutation. He said that tape becomes more popular than all my 30 per day, per month. Add that up, that one tape becomes more. So why don't we take the method of Bukhari? So he said to that man, and quizzing me like this is a bid'ah. They took this and began to take away people. Bukhari became alone. This giant that you see today, that you have his book, became a lonely man. People come to him, one or two, once in a while, to see what's going on. One guy named Ahmed comes up to him and says, Ahmed, Bukhari, Abu Abdullah, his nickname is Abu Abdullah, there's the people saying you're a kafir. Saying a kafir. And he has a direct quote with true authenticity. Whomever says the Quran is a creation is a kafir. He said that. They still say, no, we don't accept it. He said it. No, we don't accept it. He said, some people say you're kafir. He said, the chain and then the hadith, whomever calls a Muslim a kafir is a kafir. Whomever calls a Muslim a khariji, this is not a hadith, but it's based on the hadith. You call someone a khariji, what is it? You're khariji. If you call someone a murji, you're a murji. If you call someone a sururi, you're a sururi. If you call someone, you're a madkhali or a jami, you're a jami. Whatever you call your brother, you're the same based upon the origin of that hadith. And the thing is, someone called him a kafir, he said whomever calls a Muslim a kafir, he is the kafir. And what happened after that is that he told him, so-and-so has been talking about you. He says, وَأُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. His scholar, Dhuhali, is spreading rumors about you. I leave it up to Allah. وَأُفَوِّضُ. He said, you don't make dua on him? He said, you know what I'm making dua? He said, don't you know the hadith? He brings the chain of the hadith, and he says, be patient, where the Prophet ﷺ said, be patient till you meet me around the hawd. In fact, one of the things about it is that you be patient until you meet the Prophet ﷺ around the pond, around the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So that's one of the